Well, just to give a brief introduction, because Flo is naturally very humble as well. So Flo works for the Network of Wellbeing, and she's also a busy mum. So it's amazing that she's managed to make time for us today. And also she contributed to our community book called Mindfulness for Transformation. And we've been friends for quite a few years through initially your work with the Network of Wellbeing. And I think it was through that event with the Museum of Happiness, wasn't it? In 2016. So that's quite a few years ago now. So it's lovely.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Really
Wonderful.
nice.
Well, I think you're going to be talking about mindful self-compassion as we transfer into the year, right? Wonderful. Okay, I'll pass it over to you. Thanks, Flo.
Great. Thanks so much, Shamesh. I'll just see if I can share my screen.
Yeah, that's working beautifully.
Okay, great. There we go. Oh, giving you a little bit of a preview. So welcome everyone again, but to my talk. I mean, I feel also like so conscious of following Anthony's story, but also really, really humbled and also really motivated, which is a really beautiful combination. So thank you again, Anthony, for that. I am going to share about how we can journey into the new year with mindful self-compassion. So I'm going to share a little bit about what mindful self-compassion is. And actually, I think it follows really nicely from what Anthony was just sharing about the kind of dreamer and the puller backer, or the kind of inner critic, because mindful self-compassion, we'll go into it in more detail, but it's a way to kind of encourage that process of really listening to your more kind and generous inner voice, and kind of tending to your inner critic without letting it take over. So yeah, really great to follow on from the way that Anthony described that so perfectly. Then we're going to do a bit of a kind of guided meditation practice and share our experiences and intentions with each other. So yeah, feel free to comment in the chat throughout, and yeah, it's wonderful to be interactive as possible. But for now, I just wanted to invite us to just pause together and take a few deep breaths before we kind of dive into a new topic and presentation, because of course this is the Mindful New Year Experience. So I'll just invite you to just check in with your body, how you're sitting, maybe just like roll your shoulders, make sure you're comfortable. Just, yeah, maybe just notice in yourself like how you're feeling after that very inspirational talk from Anthony. And I'll just invite you just to take 3 deep breaths together with me, just to kind of ground in this moment. So breathing deeply in, really filling up your lungs, and then maybe holding for a second and just releasing out. And again, just breathing in and breathing out. And once more, breathing in and breathing out. So yeah, thank you for joining in with that moment of calm. I think it's one thing that mindfulness has taught me is that it's very easy to get stuck in that autopilot and want to rush through to the next thing. And of course, can be really rewarding, but in order to really appreciate it, it's so helpful to just pause. And thank you for doing that together. So yeah, Shamesh kindly introduced me, but I just wanted to tell a little bit more about myself. So like Shamesh said, we've known each other for years, and we actually traveled to Bhutan together, which is a small Asian country that measures its progress in happiness rather than economic growth. And so that was like one of the beautiful experiences that Shamesh and I have kind of shared together over the years of our friendship. You can see us there in the picture. And like Shamesh also mentioned, I'm a mum to a young daughter, Lily. I live together with my partner and Lily in the Netherlands, but I'm originally from the UK. And I work for this organisation, the Network of Wellbeing. We run lots of kind of online events about how the well-being of your individual well-being and how that connects with your community and with the environment and the world around you. So that's a bit about me. I'd love to, I can't so easily see the chat whilst I'm on this share screen, but I'd love to hear more about you guys. So I was thinking if you would like to share maybe just in 1 or 2 words, what drew you to this event today? Because it's quite an interesting way, I think, to spend New Year's mindfully. So yeah, maybe it was Shamesh, maybe it was maybe it was wanting to connection, maybe it was just the fact that you couldn't go out. There could be a variety of motivations, but maybe if you would like to, I'll invite you to just share with each other in 1 or 2 words in the chat. And whilst you do that, I'm going to continue on sharing a little bit about mindful self-compassion. So self-compassion comes out of mindfulness in a way, and mindfulness is a strong part of the practice, but it's actually about the way that we treat ourselves. So it's giving ourselves the same kindness and care that we'd give to a good friend. So many of you may know Kristin Neff, who's one of the academics that developed the Mindful Self-Compassion 8-week course, which is in a way a similar format as the kind of mindfulness 8-week course, but kind of building on that and building on this idea of treating ourselves as we treat our good friends, because often we're much more likely to be kind to others, but then find it maybe challenging to give that same sense of kindness to ourselves. So just to give a little bit more detail about what that means, there's 3 elements to mindful self-compassion. There's mindfulness over identification. So rather than getting lost in stories and narratives, we can kind of take a step back through mindfulness and be in the moment. Common humanity instead of kind of isolation, and self-kindness versus self-judgment. So those are kind of 3 core elements of the mindful self-compassion practice that help support you to treat yourself as a good friend. And I'm just going to go through those in a little bit more detail. So I imagine that most of you joining today have a lot of experience with mindfulness, although maybe some don't. Feel free to share. But I've just included one definition of mindfulness, is that it's an awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And that's from John Kabat-Zinn. And for me personally, that non-judgmentally aspect is so important, because I don't know about you guys, but when I started practicing mindfulness, it was kind of like in Anthony's story, like the self-critic was very large for me. And that's kind of a surprise. In fact, when you start practicing, it can almost bring up a lot of stuff that you didn't really realize when you were kind of on autopilot or rushing through. So from mindfulness, I wanted to delve deeper into, okay, how can I cultivate that sense of non-judgmentalness and kind of more kindness to myself and to others around me. So the second aspect of mindful self-compassion is common humanity. So this involves recognizing that the suffering and personal inadequacy is part of the shared human experience. So sometimes when something goes wrong, you can be like, oh, why have I messed up? You can turn your kind of critic in on yourself, or you can turn it out to the world, but think that, you're perhaps the only one struggling in that way. It can be quite that, and that can add to your suffering. So it can be a very isolating experience. And actually what mindful self-compassion, Kristin Neff and others have argued is sensing that sense of connection and togetherness is really helpful to kind of bringing you out of that kind of isolation and bringing you more into connection, knowing that, yes, I'm struggling with this, others have also struggled with this. We all have a sense of, inner critic or puller backer, as Anthony labeled it. And that's okay. That's something to not beat yourself up about, but to kind of work with and acknowledge. And the third aspect is very important. It's self-kindness. So really bringing that warm sense of understanding towards ourselves in the way that we would to a good friend. So like I mentioned earlier, it's so natural sometimes and easy when there's someone, a friend or a family member that we love and that we care about, and they've been through a challenge. We naturally kind of are drawn to wanting to comfort them, wanting to support them, wanting to be gentle with them, maybe wanting to kind of motivate them, like in a kind of tough love way, but still being very kind in whatever way that we approach them. And when we go through similar circumstances ourselves, it's so much harder to bring that sense of kindness. And actually, just like mindfulness, just like you have a mindfulness practice, and it's something that you don't just do once and then you've ticked the mindfulness box. You have to kind of cultivate and practice, ideally daily, but on a regular basis to build it up. It's the same with this sense of mindful self-compassion. So these aspects of mindfulness, then common humanity and self-kindness, this takes practice. This isn't necessarily a natural thing that you're just going to be able to do as soon as you learn about it. So I think what really helped me learning about this approach is like, well, first of all, a bit of relief, like, oh, wow, I'm not the only one with such a harsh self-critic. And second of all, kind of realizing that it's okay, that it's a process, that you can't, just force yourself into being another way. It's kind of a learning journey that evolves over time. So these are just some examples of how you might have an event in your life, and then how your inner critic might respond, and how you could maybe respond in a more compassionate way. So for example, you're turned down. It could easily be for your mind to be like, see, I told you you're not good enough. Why did you even try? Like, what's the point? But a compassionate approach to yourself is like, it's okay. This is part of the process. Keep going. So I feel like that sense of just self-encouragement, like getting to know yourself, and then also learning how to support that kind aspect of yourself. And this is just to bring it like to a more personal level. I wanted to share that practicing mindful self-compassion doesn't stop life from being messy. So this is me and my partner and my little daughter during lockdown. Of course, lockdown, this was kind of a jokey picture in a way, but it was very challenging, with schools and daycares closed. I had only just gone back to work after my maternity leave, and my partner works away a lot, so suddenly I was really having to juggle a lot of things, and it was challenging. So it doesn't mean practicing mindfulness and self-compassion doesn't mean suddenly all the challenges go away. It just helps you to deal with it, like approach yourself more kindly when those challenges arise. So the aim is to become a more compassionate mess, which I like because it's less pressure than having to have everything perfect. And also to be present for the good times when they do arrive, which they always do, whether big or small. And of course, like has been mentioned, many of us have had, challenges this year. And I think it's important to be sensitive to that, to be aware of it, to be gentle with ourselves, and also within that to cultivate a sense of kind of gratitude and kindness towards ourselves is even more important in a way, when times are more challenging. So now I'm going to invite us to stop and reflect together on how much you've overcome this year, and just encourage you to say that it's normal if you feel exhausted. It's normal if you don't. Maybe I know everyone has had their own experience of this year. We've had a shared collective experience of dealing with COVID, but of course, everyone has experienced that in their own different ways. So I'm not assuming anything about your experience, but I'm just encouraging you that if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed or uncertain or exhausted indeed, then that's, be gentle, trying to encourage you to be gentle and kind to yourself in response to that. So if it's okay, I'm going to guide a mindfulness practice or a mindful self-compassion practice now, which is going to be for about 10 minutes or so, about 10 minutes. So I'll invite you to, if it's okay, get into a comfortable position, and you're welcome, if you would like, to to sit or to lie, but just making sure, like Shamash invited us right at the start, making sure that you're comfortable. Just I love when Shamash guides a practice and he's like, oh, what could make you 10% more comfortable? So I'll invite the same. Just setting yourself up for being able to sit or lie comfortably for 10 minutes. And then when you're in a position kind of ready to practice, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a sec so that I can focus on you guys. So just gently drawing your eyes away from the screen, and if you feel comfortable doing so, closing your eyes, or if not, just kind of lowering your gaze, just so that you know for the next 10 minutes or so, the intention is really for us to go inward together and just take a journey through the year together in a mindful and self-compassionate way. And just before we go any further, I'd just like to invite you to take care of yourself in this practice. So if anything feels uncomfortable or uncertain in the practice, feel free to tune in and out, because I am going to guide us on a journey throughout the year that we've experienced in a compassionate way. So feel free to take from it what you need and let go of what isn't valuable for you. So in your seated or lying position, just taking a few moments to breathe a little bit deeper again, just to tune in with your body. So like we did earlier, just pausing for a few breaths, but now we're going to have the opportunity to deepen that a bit further. So just really feeling the air flowing in and flowing out of your body. And just extending your attention from your breath to your body as a whole, just noticing how you're feeling in this moment. Noticing what's impacted you from what's been shared so far. What emotions and thoughts have arisen in you. And just knowing that there's no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just taking the time to notice right now what's going on inside you. And I'm going to invite you to go on a little mindful journey with me through the year that's just passed. So to start with, I'll invite you to take your mind back to this time last year, just as the year was about to change into 2020. And then just running through your mind, what were you up to, who were you with? And not needing to go into too much detail, but just getting an impression on how you were feeling as the year started in January and February. Perhaps you had lots of resolutions, or perhaps you had none at all. Just tuning into what life was like for you then. And just noticing as you look back, is there anything there that you feel that you're still taking forward in your life now that's really of value to you, that's perhaps something that you feel really grateful for? Just seeing, perhaps it's relationships with family or friends, or an experience that meant something to you, perhaps something really small or large. There's no right or wrong, but just noticing. This time last year, how were you doing? What were you feeling? What were you grateful for? And seeing if that feeling changes anything in your body. And if you feel yourself distracted by stories, and just coming back to your breath, knowing that you're safe in the here and now, and that we're just taking this mindful journey together in a compassionate way. And then I'll invite you to gently let go of the thoughts and feelings from the start of the year, the end of last year, and to gently, and being very gentle with yourself, draw to mind March and April, as we started to become aware of the situation with COVID being very serious, and we were all thrown into a collective sense of uncertainty. And I'll just invite you to breathe into drawing yourself back to that time, not forcing anything, but just knowing that that was quite challenging, perhaps very challenging. And maybe just knowing, drawing a sense to yourself that there was a collective experience there, that we were all going through that challenge together in different ways. And just gently inviting you to bring a sense of kindness to yourself, thinking back on that time. So maybe it's just through a small gesture, putting a hand on your heart, or maybe through taking a bigger, deeper breath. Just maybe saying a few kind words to yourself, it's okay. Just allowing yourself to really be kind an understanding of how you experienced that time. Then I'll gently invite you to let go of that experience again, but still be on this journey through the year. So from kind of March, April into May, June, July, the summertime, when the sun started shining more, when nature started blooming all around. Perhaps you can even feel the warmth of the sun on your face in your mind's eye, or see any green places in nature that you went over the summertime. Perhaps just the experience of being outside a bit more. And again, just breathing into any memories, any thoughts, any feelings that come up for you. Knowing that there's no right or wrong experience or approach to this, but just taking what is useful from what emerges. And seeing if you can see that warmth of summer and kind of extend it as a warmth to yourself. So again, bringing that sense of kindness through a gesture, through a breath, or through some kind words to yourself. However you've experienced this time, it's okay. You're doing enough, you are enough. Just repeating any kind words that make the most sense to you, and trying to tune into them in your heart and feel them, feel the truth of them. And then I'll invite you again to gently let go of the summer, reluctantly perhaps, and just gently move forward through into September, October, November, the autumn time, as the seasons turn and the leaves begin to fall from the trees, the weather gets colder, perhaps you're more snuggled up inside, staying warm in your mind's eye. Maybe just drawing to your mind what was going on for you at that time, and being gentle with yourself, not needing to go too deeply into any particular experience, but just noting how you were doing in that period. Noticing if there were any joys or any struggles. And again, just trying to do that through a lens of kindness to yourself. So just knowing that whatever you were experiencing, you were trying your best, and that what you were doing was and is enough. And then letting go of the autumn feelings once more and moving closer to the present moment in your mind's eye. So thinking over the time, the month that you've just had in December, and the lead up to a very different type of Christmas. And just taking a moment to just be with yourself, be gentle with yourself, and just reflect on how this time of year has been for you. It's looked very different for most of us. Just knowing that there's a collective sense that has been a challenge, and been filled with some uncertainty. It's okay to have experienced challenge in that. Just knowing that however you experienced it, you've made it through that Christmas time, and still maintained a sense of positivity to attend a Mindful New Year's event. So you can congratulate yourself actually for all that you've managed to deal with over the Christmas time, and in fact over the whole year. And perhaps just try and offer some final words of kindness to yourself, just to offer yourself some gratitude for everything that you've done to cope, and perhaps to try and support others that you love, others in the world. Just really taking that moment to appreciate yourself and all that you've done in big and small ways. Perhaps letting the word thank you settle into your body and just seeing if you feel it anywhere. And then I'll invite you to let go of all thoughts and imaginings and reflections of the year past and just come back again to your breath. So again, breathing deeply, really filling your lungs and exhaling just to let go and release that whole experience, that journey through the year, and tune back into being in this moment together in this Mindful New Year's experience. Just breathing deeply again. And just knowing that you are present here with a group of loving people who are all trying to embed mindfulness into their lives. And just taking one final breath before you, in your own time, gently open your eyes and come back to our shared space together. So I'll just give you a little minute to arrive back. And thank you so much for taking that journey with me and with us together. Yeah, I'm really curious how you guys experience that. Of course, we just have a few more minutes together to share. But thank you so much for all of the comments coming in that you guys are sharing. It's really much appreciated. And just in my final few minutes, I'm just going to finish my presentation by inviting you to stay in touch, really. So yeah, I've got to give a shout out to Shamash. I mean, we're all here together because, like, many of us probably know Shamash personally. I mean, what an amazing soul Shamash is. And I just want to say thank you, Shamash, for helping me deepen my own experience of mindfulness. And I really feel like I'm on a journey with mindfulness, which Shamash is a part of. And I love to kind of write and reflect about that. So I've got my own blog that I sometimes update, and you're welcome to kind of check in with me and follow me personally. There are all my details, and also much more regularly and reliably via my work, the Network of Wellbeing. I offer kind of regular free online events, so you're really welcome to stay in touch in any of those ways. And yeah, just to say thank you so much to you all for your kind words and being here, and thank you especially to Shamash for the opportunity. And I wish everyone a very happy new year. And I will hand back to Shamash.
Thank you so much, Flo. Wow. I felt so good after doing that.
So good, you developed a patch on your eye.
It's hard to be serious when you got a pirate hat on. But that meditation was so great, going through 2020 in that way, and not just thinking of my personal experience, but the collective experience of everyone, you know, going on their normal journey, then suddenly discovering in the spring here in the Northern Hemisphere, and then how our paths changed through the year. It's really powerful. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I just realised my meditation was slightly biased towards Northern Hemisphere. So apologies to anyone.
Oh yeah. Well, most people are sleeping, I think, if they're in the 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks so much, Shamash. I'll hand
You're
back.
welcome. No, thank you for your kind words, and really recommend you follow Flo's blog, and also her through the Network of Wellbeing. Both those channels are brilliant.